From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell, back from New Zealand, which was a really fun trip following England's men for their 2 test matches and that incredible finish in Wellington. So thank you to Ellie Oldroyd for standing in for me last week. I'm back to cover Crufts. I think we might even hear a few woofs behind Jim Maxwell. With your fairy friend, Jim, I'll keep an eye out for the relatives.
Ali, thank you for the cue. Yes, we've just returned this afternoon from a road trip to the country where we introduced young Rusty, the toy cavoodle, to a couple of characters, I suppose you could say. Certainly one big character, and I don't know whether you've ever heard of the bushranger Ben Hall. Well, there's a statue of him in Forbes, and Rusty looked quizzically at him, I have to say. Anyway, we've got a photo, but more significantly, we've got a photo of him with the Parkes telescope, which is magnificent, which was the subject of a movie about landing on the moon in 1969, a comedy drama. Anyway, that's where we've been for the last few days, and he's just had a bath, so if you woofs, you'll know what's going on.
Happy dog. Hi, and I'm Sunil Gupta for All India Radio. I'm here in New Delhi, and it's been a packed week, actually. What with the Holi festival, which all of you know is the festival of colors and water, and a lot of festivities and fun and all those things that go into it. And, of course, the immense event of the WPL, which started about a week ago, a few days ago, with a terrific match between Gujarat and Mumbai. And, of course, the final test match between Australia and India. Australia and India going toe-to-toe, and India hoping for that final spot in the World Test Championship final to be played at the Oval in June.
Yeah, we'll talk about those things over the course of the show. Good to have you with us again, Sunil, as well. Looking out the window at the snow, and I can already see lots of doggy footprints as people are making their way into the main arena here. It's really quite a sight. Right, we will start with the Women's Premier League because, as you mentioned, it began in India this week and really marked, well, it was a momentous occasion for women's cricket, paying players riches that had only previously been imagined. And if you didn't catch any of the opening ceremony, I recommend you go back and have a look on the WPL's Twitter feed because you'll be able to see some highlights there. It was big scale, it was star-studded, and for me, it really underlined that India has gone all in for this tournament. And the opening match then saw the Mumbai sky light up. There was fireworks. And for the first time, Indian women's domestic cricket was truly celebrated on a global scale, what with the televising of the whole tournament as well. Sunil, how has the early following been in India? Is it living up to the hype that we all experienced around the auction and the build-up?
Well, I'd love to say yes, it's going through the roof. Unfortunately, no, not really. First of all, the initial sort of excitement was because of the novelty factor. This is happening, all that sort of thing. You're seeing the auction. I'm sure quite a few people tuned into the auction, the young girls who are coming through literally the ranks. And as you said, more money than they've ever seen. That's great. But the problem is that the stadiums themselves, the attendances have been sparse, if I might use that particular word. And I think one of the key reasons, Ali, is that all the matches are being played in Mumbai. Now, Mumbai is no stranger to big cricket, right? A lot of big cricket comes to Mumbai. And I think if you really want to get this off the ground, you have to go and play in the smaller towns. That's where they don't get a lot of big cricket. This will be more than a novelty factor. People will go into the stadiums. You will get full stadiums. And that's really what the WPL, IPL is all about. And to my mind, once they are able to do that, because a lot of these young girls from India come from those small towns. So all, their villages and all the catchment area will go to watch them, watching them in these big games in this colored clothing, playing with the international stars. That's going to be a huge occasion. Bombay, there could be a little bit of ennui because, as I said, they've seen it and they've been watching, the India-Australia T20s that were played recently in Mumbai. So a lot of big cricket comes in there. But, as I said, like most startups, it's going to take time. Now, people will compare this to the IPL. But remember, that was way back in 2007. And at that point of time, T20 tournaments were not the vogue. what they've become today. So there was that novelty factor. And of course, it was in different centers, which was the big reason why it actually took off the ground so well. And of course, the big stars, Shane Warne, et cetera, were there. So I think if they're able to manage this in the second edition, then I think that you'll suddenly see this actually rising from where it is currently in terms of the actual excitement factor in the ground.
That's really interesting to hear you say that, because watching it on television, it has been quite hard to gauge exactly how big the crowd is in terms of the stadium. You don't get too many sort of wide shots, and it's very easy on the television. You do get lots of noise and atmosphere comes across. So actually, as a television product, it feels like it's still quite exciting, which is important because that is what's being projected around the globe. And interestingly, if you look at the way the league's developed with the 100 that was previously the Kia Super League in England, that began at smaller venues before then evolving into what it is now, interestingly, double headers with the men. But the same, the WBBL in Australia also started at small grounds. It's still largely matches played at the more boutique venues to sort of build that atmosphere. So it'd be interesting to see how the competition evolves, whether the format stays the same next year, and how things will always be tweaked. But I don't think you can quite expect to fill international size stadiums every match for a brand new tournament of domestic cricket. Jim, if we talk about some of the action that's been on the field, there's been a number of compelling matches, compelling tournaments. I mean, not necessarily sort of nail-biting finishes yet, but we've seen some real quality from certain individuals, haven't we?
We've seen some big scores. I mean, this is another example of the developing athleticism of female cricketers now that they're on the main stage, profile, well paid. But the big scores, and there's some big hitters in there. We know what Heavenpreet Kaur and Grace Harris, and even her sister, if she gets to play, can do. So I think that's part of the development of the women's game here. Meg Lanning, of course, has been mightily involved, and Ash Gardner perhaps more with the ball on the bat so far. But I think from a smidgen of coverage I've seen, the quality of the hitting and the power of a lot of these women is super impressive. And that's what's going to make this tournament attractive and should be drawing a crowd. I would imagine on television that's pulling a crowd if it's not at the stadiums. But I think it's got off to a pretty good start.
Yes, what I really look for in these tournaments are the unknown players, who are coming to the fore. You've not heard of them before. You heard of all the big names. You took some of them right now from India as well. But there is this girl called Saika Ishaq who plays for the Mumbai Indians. In the very first game, she took 4 for 11 from again for the Mumbai Indians against the Gujarat Giants, and she comes from Bengal. She's a left-arm spinner and already has taken 6 wickets in the tournament, if not more now. She's top of the pile in terms of the wickets being taken, something that India actually needs. So you discover these hidden gems, people who are making it to the fore. She's actually coming back into the game after an injury layoff of 2 years and suddenly has made a mark. So I think this is what actually, to my mind, is the most exciting thing about these tournaments, that you suddenly see players you've never seen. It could be from anywhere, right? There's Issy Wong. There's another bowler who's also taking a lot of wickets. So these are names that you don't normally get to see, but suddenly they are on the big stage performing. To my mind, that is the most exciting thing.
Now, the final match of the Border Gavaskar Test Series has got underway. Australia and India's men playing at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, that enormous 132,000 capacity stadium. There was talk about whether a record crowd might be in, but no real evidence of that just yet anyway. The Australian Prime Minister has been in the House watching, Anthony Albanese, alongside India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi himself. Now, India have won every Test series at home in the last 10 years. Is that going to be playing on their mind at all, Sunil, or will they relax pretty much now that the trophy itself is retained already?
They are burning inside, let me tell you right now. They are as nervous as hell. If you witness the first couple of overs, right, where they dropped catch, 8 byes. I mean, it's all, and the first ball was a wide. And I go back to the time when I think it was Harmison who bowled that wide down in Perth. right, and set that Ashes series off to the worst possible start for England. So they're nervous. That's my feeling. That is my feeling. They're nervous because not because of the fact that they've not lost any series, but because of what happened in the third Test match. As Jim was saying, it was a tailor-made pitch in terms of spinners, but I thought that the Australian spinners outbowled the Indian spinners by yards. They were terrific. I mean, the way that Todd Murphy and Kerneman and, of course, Nathan Lyon, I mean, Jesus, how well he bowled, right? And bowling that accurate. They were so accurate, whereas the Indian bowlers were all over the place. Akshar Patel, as I mentioned, who's in the team as primarily as a bowler, did not pick up a wicket. That tells you something. So I think they're hurting, they're burning, and they are very, very nervous because remember, there's a place in the World Test Championship that is at stake. India need to win this. Of course, the other factor at play is the New Zealand Sri Lanka series, which is also going on concurrently. So there are so many irons in the fire. And of course, you know, this is the big stadium, the big stage, the biggest stage in India in terms of size. I think the nerves are jangling, if I might put it that way.
I think for the Indian top order batting, it's been that way for the whole series. I mean, their number one batsman in terms of numbers bats at 9, Akshar Patel. I mean, their batting, it's looked very ordinary. I know the Australians have had their collapses, but the top 6 from India haven't put in. And that's one of the reasons why we might be seeing a slightly flatter, less crumbly surface to start with, at any rate, in this 4th Test match. The crowd didn't turn up. I mean, there are less than 50,000 there. What's going on? They haven't filled the stadium, as a lot of people were speculating that there might be 100,000 people.
Finally on Stumped, an attempt to become the world's most travelled female cricketer, to uncover how the game is uplifting and empowering women, and raise money for charity all at the same time. Jenny Thompson used to be a cricket journalist in the UK. You might remember her, cricket fans, from her Cricinfo days. She's been living in Adelaide, South Australia, for many years now. She's continued to play and coach the game recreationally. And she's now embarking on this challenge, which will take her from Hong Kong to Vanuatu to Indonesia and a whole host of other places as well. And she's with us on Stumped to tell us more. Jenny, how are you? Last time I saw you, and I need to tell people that we know each other well, you were cooking up this adventure. And then I saw on a Facebook page you'd created that it was actually happening. So tell us, first of all, where your idea came from.
Oh, well, I've had the idea for about the last 5 years, but in the last 5 weeks, I just pressed go and it's really snowballing. There's some really exciting things coming on. But as you mentioned, I've got the background in Cricinfo and, I got really interested in women's empowerment through cricket at the time. I would write a lot of articles there. And at that point, it was really gratifying that the ICC, with whom I had a very good relationship, they told me that they took on board 80 to 90% of my suggestions and they made those changes. So, cricket-related change for women is something that I'm really hoping to carry forward with this tour. But also, really, who doesn't want to play cricket around the world? It's an absolute dream, and I just feel really fortunate to be embarking on this massive adventure.
And on the fringe again, what's the most unlikely place you're going to go to in terms of cricket being on the agenda beyond a couple of fanatics getting together to play it?
I always think it's quite unusual to have cricket in South America, so that's going to be very interesting. But really, I have to tell you, I'm most excited so far about where I'm going to start my tour, which is in Hong Kong. And obviously the cricket scene there is really, really burgeoning, but I'm actually going to be playing alongside the Divas, who are the Filipino domestic workers based in Hong Kong, who use their 1 day off a week to play cricket. And even more excitingly, allied to that is we're going to be playing an exhibition T10 match. to kickstart the opening ceremony of Fair Break, which is obviously does so much great work for women through cricket. So it's really the perfect start for the tour.
Hi, Jenny. This is Sunil. This sounds fascinating in all the places that you're going, and I wish I could go in my lifetime. I don't know whether I'm ever getting to Vanuatu and all the other places. But at the end of the day, one has to manage the books. That's what I do for the family. So how are you funding all this lovely travel all across the globe?
That's an absolutely great question. And I mentioned ice cricket in Estonia before. And actually, the person who set that up is a man named Jason Barry, who in the 90s played cricket in 113 countries. And he managed that whole tour by fax. And I thought the logistics were difficult these days. So I tracked him down actually, and we had a conversation, and it was really lovely because I've had so much support from everybody, but it was great to hear it from someone who's actually done such a massive mission. And I was seeking some reassurance, and I can tell you he reassured me that this is going to cost an absolute arm and a leg, and he's really not wrong. I mean, I'm fortunate to have some savings, but really already some people from the cricket community who I've never met before have come forward to offer me accommodation, and Cricket Without Borders are supporting me to go to Fiji and Vanuatu. So that's been very kind. I'm hoping more people might come forward, really.
Brilliant. Look, we can't wait to follow you. So keep us posted on Stumped about what you do discover in all these far-flung places, because that is exactly what our programme is about as well. We love to get into the corners of the world where cricket is less well known. Good luck on your travels. Great to speak to you, Jenny.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, all the best.
Jenny Thompson. Keep an eye out for her World Cricket Tour. And that is all we've got time for on Stumped this week. So my thanks to Jim Maxwell and to Sunil Gupta and to all of you for listening. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
From the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.